Hey, it's me. Today is another squishy makeover, 2 in 1 month.
Woo!
I think after what happened in the last makeover video, I'm kind of eager to move on past that. Opie. So the squishies I'm going to make over today are used, discarded squishies that have been sent to me from my viewers. As usual, I went through the comments on my last unboxing video to figure out which squishies you guys were most interested in seeing. I definitely did see a lot of requests to give a makeover to this guy. An ice cream melting over its head? I'm really into this. You guys loved him, but don't get too much of an ego, because I think the only reason he stood out to you is because I got 2 of them in one video. This one is also in just dire need of some love and attention. And the third squishy that I saw a lot of requests for was this one. Why? It's so plain and basic. You would not think that this would really get a lot of attention. It's because of this. This is actually a squishy that I decorated I decorated this quite some time ago, and apparently he needs a wife, so we're gonna make that happen today. He has been single for a long time. So what I'm gathering here is that, when there's 2 of something, you guys tend to take notice. I am gonna get started with one of these 2, this one, so let's take a closer look at him.
Hello.
So here's our first victim. Some serious violent crimes have been committed against this little fellow. I think the murder weapons were scissors and a Sharpie?
Somebody had fun with a Sharpie.
Doesn't look like it was an accident either. There's a giant slice right through the face, a slice through the ear, and of course the severed foot. Oh, look at that. They scribbled on his flesh. Aside from his many mutilations, I'm not a huge fan of the pink and orange color combination, so let's see what we can do with this. And look, I've already made my first mistake. Orange was the wrong color choice for the background. I'm gonna start by taking some sandpaper to this. This will just rough up the texture of the foam and prepare it for paint. Now for fixing all of the rips, I'm just gonna take some fabric glue and just spread it on in there. And then I'm using a rubber band to hold everything together while the glue dries. Oh, and another. That'll do it. Once that's dry, I'm removing the rubber bands. I'm gonna give the squishy a break for a second. I'm gonna bring out a chunk of memory foam. I thought it would be cool to add a little something to this, so I'm just cutting out a dome shape. It's gonna be a nice little hat. So I'm smoothing and smoothing. Here we are. And his hat is actually
Not a hat at all.
it's a cherry. So I'm gluing that on, and yes, the cherry is almost the same size as the ice cream cone. Totally accurate proportions right there. Now I'm going in with a completely random color of paint, just basically to smooth over the rough areas and fill in the holes, rips, gaps, and cracks. The bottom is looking like an earthquake aftermath, so that's gonna need some work. Just using a nice layer of paint to create a smooth surface that we can then paint over. We use a lot of paint here. That's all dry, and he's ready for decoration. So I'm painting this with a light chocolate color, and as you can see, this is going to take several coats to cover up that mess that's underneath, so we shall keep going. Is he actually a cat made of chocolate, or does he just have chocolate brown fur?
I don't know, I don't have the answers. I just ask the questions.
I will say this brown looks just awful against that orange background. Thank you. Orange is just not your color, buddy. Okay, we got his body covered. Now bring in the ice cream. What's the flavor? What is it?
It's mint.
So that's right, I'm doing a nice mint ice cream for his head. I'm hoping to create a more kind of appetizing color combination than the original, which was a fluorescent orange and a fleshy pink. So now we have a lovely milk chocolate and a refreshing mint. Adjectives. I'm trying to unsee this, but it kind of looks like the ice cream cone is like a piece of shrapnel that pierced his skull, and then the ice cream is kind of like his brains that are bursting out.
Okay, all right then.
I'm starting to move on to the toppings. I'm painting that cherry, which somehow looks even bigger now. It's growing. Well, who doesn't like a massive cherry? Do you want
A cherry on top?
or do you want And onto the little cone, giving that a quick coat. And then I'm going in and cleaning up this very messy ice cream edge that's all the way around, going over that twice to make sure to get nice even coverage. And yes, that looks much better. It was so difficult to choose design ideas for these two cats because I feel like I could design 100, so many possibilities. I need to get a collection of these. I mean, I could do rainbow, cookies and cream, strawberry lemonade, rainbow, cookie dough, blue raspberry, cotton candy, funfetti, rainbow. I have a lot of ideas is what I'm trying to say. I'm now working on some touch-ups, just fixing some of the edges so that everything looks neat. And I decided to give him a dark brown chest. Do cats ever have a darker colored chest? I don't think so. That's probably why this looks very awkward. But I'm ignoring that and just adding some chocolate chips to the mint ice cream. And now it's actually looking a lot more like ice cream. That really did it for me. And at this point, I've realized that his chest looks just ridiculous and I hate it. So I'm wiping that away with some toilet paper.
Wiping the poo-poo.
So now I get to repaint that area like it never happened. This time, I'm just gonna stick with some little stripes, give him a little chest hair, and define the paws a little bit more. Oh, and it's showtime for the face. I did sketch out the face beforehand. It just makes it a lot easier to do that off camera and then be able to just kind of trace over the lines. I'm trying to avoid another situation. I made his expression kind of like since he has ice cream on his head and he's hungry for it. Last touch, added a little brown on his tail and boom, we are done. I think it's a great makeover. I like the new design. It's just, you know, more interesting, has better detail than before. You would never know that he'd been sliced through the face and that his foot had been ripped off. I'm sure some people will have problems with the face. They always do. Everyone thinks they can do better.
It's fine. I'm fine.
I like to give each squishy its own personality and try different expressions on their faces, so I like to experiment. Did this one come out slightly creepy? No. Does he look kind of like he wants to eat your face off? No. Anyway, I am actually very happy with it. I think he looks cute.
I'll keep him.
Moving on to the other ice cream cat, it's the same squishy with different injuries. The most obvious is that her cone is broken off and missing, but notice that's not all that's missing. The cone took her ear. She now only has one ear, but that's okay. Oh yes, and that. The previous owner provided me with a rubber band. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Woo, we're in space. This damage could have easily happened over time with use instead of vicious acts of violence. Judging by how dirty this squishy is, it's been used a lot. So I'm gonna sand this, or these.
I have 2 squishies.
And to get the squishy back in one piece, I'm just using my glue and I'm gonna glue it back in one piece. I was just gonna use the same rubber band that was sent with it, but it was too stretched out. How did that happen, I wonder? So I'm grabbing a fresh rubber band. Oh. That one's much better. Here's one that'll work, and I'll go ahead and fix up the ear as well. She's only got one left, so let's make it good. Now that everything's back together,
Maturity is my best quality.
we have to deal with this. So I dug up this random little cupcake squishy. I'm pulling out the little pin and throwing it on the ground. I ended up stepping on that several days later. And instead of having ice cream spilling down its head, she's gonna have a cupcake spilling down her head, which makes a lot less sense. But for some reason, I was really happy with this idea. I have plenty of little ice cream squishies that I could have used to replace the cone that was missing here, but it would have been a differently shaped cone than the other one. I feel like if I had names for all of them, it would be so much easier to talk about them. Okay, his name's Eustace. If I had replaced the cone with some cone from a random squishy, it would have been a different cone than the one that's on Eustace. If they're gonna be different anyway, why not just embrace that and make them even more different from each other? So I went for a cupcake. I'm gluing the cupcake in place, and then since Eustace had a cherry, I decided to give her, what do we call her? Shelly. We're gonna give Shelly a topping as well. I found this little strawberry squishy, so I'm chopping that up to the right size, which is still enormous, and then I'm gluing that on. Now everyone's here and in place. Time to seal all of the pieces together. There are a lot of very rough areas to cover on this squishy, particularly in the head region. Rough. So this took several layers of paint, just kind of globbing that over top of the mess until it looks a little bit better. You know, that's how you clean up all messes. Just glob a bunch of paint over it. I had this idea to try to cover up the bumpiness by adding like a tier of frosting on top, like layered drips, but that just looked like crap. So I ended up just smoothing that out and forgetting about that idea. And then I just moved on to painting the entire head white. Oh, and the body's white now too. That's my base coat so that I can go in with a light pink for the cat color. So I'll just do several coats of that pink to build up the color until, you know, that looks good and nice, and I'm stalling and okay, it looks good and nice. I'm painting another coat of white on the top. I'll admit that the cupcake sticking out of the head, it's slightly strange, I guess. It doesn't read as well as the ice cream cone, but it's a good idea.
Nice try.
I'm just gonna keep on rolling with it since it's kind of too late to turn back now. Hold on, right there. This video is sponsored by Arteza, and they've sent me a whole bunch of art supplies that I want to show you guys. So here, just look at them. Also this adorable handmade card. Aww. Thanks for that. They sent the 30 pack of Arteza 3D paints, including fluorescent colors, metallics, glitters, even glow in the dark. I use fabric paint on a regular basis for lots of different things, like
These things called squishies.
you can also use it on t-shirts, tote bags, jeans, jackets, jean jackets. They also sent me a set of their fabric markers and a pad of Arteza watercolor paper. Oh, and here's something, a full set of 96 Arteza real brush pens with every color and shade that you could ever want. I must try these out. I must try these out right now. So I'm using the watercolor paper that they sent me, which is recommended for these, and I'm just gonna draw something quick and easy, but you know, of course, we're staying on theme here. Here are the brush pens.
Look at them.
So I had never used these before, but these were actually pretty easy to use.
They're very friendly.
You get that watercolor look, but without the mess. The colors came out so bright and vibrant. Arteza offers a huge variety of art products, great for either professional artists or beginners, or those of us who are not professional or beginner. They're just kind of stuck in between somewhere.
Yes, that's me. Hello.
They're good for everyone, is what I'm trying to say. You can check them out on Instagram at Arteza Official. They have tons of tutorials and ideas. They're also offering 20% off for you guys if you use the code Mariah20 within the next 7 days only. So make sure you go to arteza.com/Mariah to get 20% off. I want to thank Arteza for sponsoring this video and for sending me all of these amazing supplies. Now back to the squishies. And now I'm going for another coat of white on the frosting. This time I'm doing a nice thick coat and I'm smoothing that out as much as I can. When you apply thick coats of paint like this, the paint does flatten out a little bit as it dries, so you don't have to like obsess about it too much, but just get it roughly smooth. That makes no sense. Oh, and
Here's where it gets good.
I'm gonna add some little circular sprinkles while the paint is still wet.
No.
Okay, and once all of that dries, I'm gonna clean up those edges. This one, I wanted to have an annoyed expression. She's just very annoyed that there's currently a cupcake on her head. I mean, can you blame her? An ice cream cone ate her ear. I gave her some white paws. It kind of looks like she stepped in frosting. I'm okay with that. And I fixed up her face a little. Her whiskers are very crooked, so I'm gonna paint over one side and then just repaint those. That's better. Adding some little details to her tail and her ears, or ear, and it's done. This one I think came out pretty amazing. I think I like this one even better than what's his name? Eustace. I'm really happy with it. Even though the cupcake sticking out does look a little bit weird, I still really like it. It kind of reminds me of this drawing that I did in my Create This book way back in the day. I love how annoyed she looks.
Freaking cupcake on my head.
And it's time to bring in her creepy companion. It's Eustace. He looks like the type that'll try to get just a little too close. I think these two look really cute together. I'm very happy to add these two to my collection. And the final squishy for this episode is this little bear. Very plain, just solid pink. Nothing too remarkable about you, my dear. You're nothing special. Yeah, it's another episode of watch me bully a piece of foam. She has this ear issue. It's hollow, but at least she has two ears. It is ripping, dirty, stained. Not really sure what to say about that. And now this. First, I'm gonna fill the ear with a little piece of foam just to give it like that structure back. And then I'm gonna glue that in. Now let's go on a little journey here. Stay with me. I'm grabbing a little more memory foam and I'm just shaping that into a tiny ball. And then I'm gonna cut that tiny ball in half. And then I'm gonna stick half the tiny ball on one side of her face and the other half of the tiny ball on the other side of her face.
What the?
So I tried to rubber band these to let them dry, but since the foam pieces were so small, the glue just soaked right through, and then this happened, so that's not gonna work. So I ripped those off. What a wonderful waste of time. Plan B, I'm actually gonna use small pom-poms and some hot glue. You know I'm desperate when I bring out the hot glue gun, but the first method, as you saw, did not work, and I need this bear to have balls on its face. You know what I mean. I didn't want to give up on my design idea, so this is how I had to make it work. So I'm sealing the pom-poms on there with some paint, and I'm also throwing a coat of paint over that ear. There we go. So as I said, this is going to be a wife for my polar bear squishy, so she's going to be a polar bear as well. We're not doing any crazy crossing of species here. She's gonna have a nice hat as well. Aha, so now you see what these pom-poms were about. I wanted to look like one of those hats that, you know, has pom-poms on it. I don't know if I really pulled off that look, but I tried. It was kind of weird because usually those hats have these long strings and the pom-poms are at the end of the strings, but her head is also like kind of short, so I had to kind of shrink the hat a little bit, but I think it kind of works. If you haven't seen the first polar bear makeover, I'll link it in the corner now. It was from my Christmas themed makeovers from last year, so I wanted to match the style of that one, even though I painted that one. Again, they need names. Alfred. Even though I painted Alfred so long ago, I wanted it to look like these were painted at the same time, but I also wanted to make this one another name. Marlo. To have her own style. She has a hat and a sweater like Alfred, but they're in a different color, they're in a different style. There was a lot of going back and forth painting those stripes on her hat. They gave me a little trouble trying to keep them nice and straight and tidy. And speaking of tidy, here I go around fixing up everything, doing lots of touch-ups. I gave her a tan muzzle instead of the gray. I don't know, the gray to me almost looks like a 5 o'clock shadow, so I thought that maybe using tan instead might make her look a little bit more feminine. And I'm just adding her facial features, which I kept very simple and very similar to Alfred. Here she is. I think she turned out really nice. Definitely more interesting than the original design. I'm really happy with how the hat looks. I think that turned out really cute, even though the pom-poms are not squishy. In fact, they're very hard. That's okay. And the moment we've all been waiting for. Okay, anyway. You know what? I think she's slightly larger than him. But yeah, I think the designs complement each other well. There could be one more addition to this pair, though. But that's for another episode, maybe. So here everyone is. Quit creeping in the back like that, Eustace. I'm very happy with how all of these came out. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. I have something cool and different planned for next week, as well as a little surprise. So make sure you show up next week, Friday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Don't be late. I'll see you guys next Friday. Bye.